I kept asking, what can I do to help my baby? What can I do to make sure my baby doesn't suffer? That choice was only available to me if I paid a lot of money and left the state. I finally had to ask, prior to this law going into effect, is this something that you would have talked about, termination? And the doctor essentially said, yes, I really recommend you go outside of Texas.
We do the scan and the doctor comes in and kind of gives us the news that she's not going to live and that it's a fatal diagnosis and there's no surgery that can be done or anything like that. And you're processing that information, and while you're processing that information, you're told, okay, I can't help you and you have to leave the state. I just felt like a criminal. I felt like I was being treated like a criminal. Honestly, researching the legality of it was very stressful for me because I didn't understand I didn't understand the laws. Like, I just didn't understand if I left the state, if I could be prosecuted. I just didn't know.
One of the things that made it more difficult in having to leave the state was, one, you have to figure out all the travel logistics, right? You have to travel. Texas is a big state, so to get out of here, it's pretty far to travel. It takes you a long time. You have to go to a city you're unfamiliar with, go visit doctors and clinics that you're unfamiliar with, be in public a lot more than you would have to be while you're having a time of huge grief. And so all those things just add to the trauma that you're experiencing and the difficult situation that your family's in. Not to mention that it's more expensive to get that care, and that prevents a lot of people from even having that option. Mm-hmm. So all those things have just made it more difficult than if we were able to stay here in Texas.
In theory, you might think you know what you would do, but until you're actually faced with that news and you're sitting there, you don't know.
I just remember thinking, I'm losing my child, I have all this grief, but it's really become this issue that's so much broader than what it should be in women's healthcare. With my children, and I'm just so grateful that I finally got this second child, but throughout this entire journey, the last 2 years, it's just become more and more clear that the medical community, medical professionals, they don't know what to do in light of these laws. The hardest part of navigating these laws is feeling less than someone who deserves the right to manage their own health care, feeling less than somebody who can talk to their doctor and make a medical decision for themselves. The dehumanization that has happened and the lack of empathy and compassion that has happened to me over the last 2 years, as I've had 5 pregnancies and only 2 live children. There was never any, I'm so sorry for your loss. It was navigating a medical and political field to figure out how to maintain my health to keep my fertility. To realize that, like, my love of Texas isn't enough to make the government or my legislators or, people respect me, was just heartbreaking because I wanted to come back. I wanted this community, I wanted this state, and I wanted my kids to grow up here. And now, yeah, I've very much considered if this is the best place for us now, especially now that I have a daughter. And a lot of things that happen to me are probably genetic and things like that. And I have to think about her well-being moving forward. I've also been told that I should not get pregnant again, that I will most likely have a very severe hemorrhage if I try to deliver again. And so now I have to think about what happens if I do get pregnant again on accident. What are my options and what am I going to do so that I'm alive for my children?
I want to stay in Texas and fight. I don't want to leave because I think I read a lot of people's reactions to the news coming out, and it's always like, well, they should leave Texas and it's not that easy, and that's not the answer. The answer is to stay here and fight. And so I'm willing to stay here and fight as long as necessary.
Yeah, I mean, our lives are here, right? We work here in Austin. Her family's here in Austin. We own this house. It's not that easy to just get up and leave, even if you wanted to.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, like, Texas is a really big state, and it's one of the most populated states in the country. And if they're not doing the things that we feel are right, then that's going to leave a lot of people in the dark. And so if we're the ones who are taking the fight, then we want to finish it and make sure that people get the access to the abortion care that they need here in Texas, and that those rights aren't taken away. So we're here, and we want to make a difference while we're here.